Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Lost Coast Podcast. Today, we have a very interesting guest with us, Wayne Wallace. He's going to tell us a little bit about himself and his business. Welcome to the show, Wayne.
Hey, Cory, how are you? Thanks for having me on the show.
It's great to have you here. This is going to be good. So, Wayne, why don't you start off by just kind of telling us a little bit about yourself, how you got started and what you do. Let's go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm based in Las Vegas, Nevada, and I am a photographer, videographer, and video editor and filmmaker. And I'm going to kind of roll back the clock a little bit and go all the way back to my high school days. I went to a technical vocational school in Massachusetts, and I studied the trade of drafting with pencils and paper and drafting boards and compasses and all that old school analog stuff. And immediately after high school, I went to work for the Raytheon Missile Division. And I actually helped build the Patriot missile. At that time, I didn't know that, but I was working on these little parts on a computer. So the whole point of telling you this story is that I saw the change from paper and pencil to computers early on. This was back in the mid 80s. And I went on and I had a career in the engineering world, and I used a piece of software called AutoCAD. But I started with version 1 of AutoCAD, and I had a 15-year career using AutoCAD, and eventually went to work for Autodesk, the company that makes AutoCAD, and I was a C++ programmer. So I had quite the career already. And then a world-changing event happened, 9/11, and I got laid off. And I thought, well, I can continue in the engineering world or the software world, whatever I wanted to do, or I could take my other passion of photography and go be a photographer. So this is a digital camera, but back then it was film. So I grabbed my film camera out of the closet, blew the dust off of it, and started going out and taking pictures with my film camera. And then just a year or two later, digital cameras came out. So again, I saw the transition from analog to digital, just like I did in the drafting world, from analog to digital. So that's kind of how I got my start, Cory.
So, so now you were in the drafting, I hard to believe that you went from the drafting and then all of a sudden now you're building parts for the Patriot missile. That's kind of like we hear that all the time. We hear the Patriot missile even today. That's still a big thing, and you have
Yes.
to have a hand in a part in that is pretty amazing. Like you said, it must have been kind of top secret here. Build this, but you don't know what it's for, huh?
Yeah, I was just building a little 3D part. Like I didn't know what it was for. But later on, as the years went on and I kind of got aware of, you know, war and what governments do, I said, okay, well, who was president at that time? Oh, it was Reagan. Oh, what were they doing? They were doing Star Wars, right? And then through some more research, I found out that Raytheon was responsible for building the Patriot missile. So it was pretty interesting to look back, and see what I was working on.
That's great. So then you got into film, and I remember that the old cameras, you put the film in, it had the rolls and stuff. And then, remember they came out Polaroid, remember? Holy smokes. That we thought we were in heaven. And
Yeah. Now let me tell you an interesting story about Polaroid. A lot of people probably don't know this. So Polaroid film was actually developed as a quick way to check your lighting setup for professional photographers. So just imagine you're doing a Nike photo shoot. A lot of money's going into it. The set, the staff, the models, the artists, like all the people that go into making this photo or video shoot a reality. And if you're using film, unlike digital, you can't see it on the back of the camera instantly. So back then, what we had was we had backs that went on the back of the camera. So one would be a film back, the other one would be a Polaroid back. So after you got your whole setup ready, you'd put the Polaroid back on, you'd take a quick shot with Polaroid, you'd stick it under your arm and let it heat up and develop. And then you'd look at it and say, okay, the setup looks pretty good. Let's put the film back on. And then we'd shoot rolls of film. So that's actually why Polaroid was developed, as a quick way to kind of get a look at what your setup looks like.
Interesting. That's, yeah, how things change and why they got here, development, it's basically, most things are developed the same time and money, and that's exactly like you say what happened there. So you get in this, now you got this digital camera, right? I mean, you still got to, it's still a lot of work. You got to go take the pictures. You got to come down. You got to download them. You got to work them. You got to go through all of them. Number one, I mean, picture by picture by picture.
Yeah.
That's just. But with that camera now, I mean, what's where are you taking this now at this next level? Then what's your next move here with this camera, this digital?
Yeah. I'm glad you asked. So after I decided I wanted to become a photographer, I played around with, film for a little while. And then I said, you know what? I really need to learn more about photography. So I went all the way back across country to where I'm from, Massachusetts. And I went to the best photography school in the country. And I learned about digital photography. I graduated at the top of my class. I won a big award. It's called the Mamiya Award of Excellence for my portfolio. Top of my class, 250 people in the class. And then I moved to Las Vegas, where I'm based now. And when I got to Las Vegas, I shot lots of weddings at the Bellagio, and I started building my portrait business. And everything was fine. I would do a variety of different portrait type photography. And then another world-changing event happened, COVID. So all my people were hiding at home. And I said, well, what can I do with my time now? I can't photograph people. And I thought, well, I always wanted to get into film and video. So let me go online and get my master's degree in documentary film editing. So I did that and got my master's. And then COVID, lets up and we're all back to doing our normal stuff again. And I start doing this online networking on this platform called Alignable, where we met. And I start meeting all these great business owners with stories about why they do what they do. And many of them had stories like me about how things changed during COVID or 9/11 or whatever. Some event in their life happened and they made a change and they started doing another type of work. So I said, I want to help these business owners tell their story. How can I do that? And I came up with this great idea. I created something called the DIY Documentary Film Lab. It's basically an online community where I bring business owners together and I teach them about documentary style videos. Now, people always ask me, well, Wayne, I love documentaries, but how can I make a documentary about myself and my business? Well, it's actually pretty easy. So there's a couple choices. You can have somebody like me come and film you with a camera, or you can take out your cell phone and you can record yourself. So that's what I do. I teach regular people how to take better pictures and videos with their own cell phone. So here's the first lesson. So when I use my regular camera, I'm automatically holding it in a horizontal format. Just like when you watch your TV or your computer on YouTube, it's a horizontal or landscape format. Now, when most people hold their phone, they hold it like this and they talk at it. because that's what social media has trained us to do. They've trained us by putting a little camera on the front here for us to take selfies, right? So when I go on my Instagram or my Facebook, all I see is selfies, selfie, selfie, selfie. You know, the local realtor, they'll start doing a selfie video and they'll talk about the house they're in or whatever. Okay. What I'm doing is I'm teaching people how to turn their phone horizontally and capture what they see. Because as a photographer, what I typically do is I capture what I see. I'm not taking a selfie. It's a little hard to take a selfie with a real camera, right? So that's the first step, is you want to document your world. So let's just say you have a construction company. Maybe you're a roofing company and you put roofs on houses. Well, it's really easy for you to take your phone and start recording that process of guys working on the roof, right? Then what I would do is I would sit down and interview the business owner, much like a podcast we're doing here, and I would get their story about why they do what they do, why they love what they do, how they do what they do. And I do this long, interview that gets all the information that I need, because there's two parts to a documentary. There's the narrative track, and then there's the visual track. The visual track, you can capture that yourself with your cell phone. I don't need to be there. And then the narrative track comes from the interview that I do. Then I bring all that information into my editing program and I cut it up into a little story. Now, people always ask me, well, how long does a video need to be? Well, it just depends on where you're publishing it. If you're putting it as a main video on your website, like an About Us kind of video, then probably about 3 to 5 minutes is a good length. Because, attention spans these days, people don't have a lot of it. It's kind of like a goldfish, right? And then for social media, if you want to publish on Instagram or TikTok or one of those sites where it's just a reel that people are scrolling through, then you can take that longer video and you can cut it up into segments. Okay. Now, the other
now let's touch base on that. So you're taking the film and you're gonna break it up into the basically I guess the world of shorts to put on social media and stuff like that. And those are going to be even shorter yet than the 3 to 5 minutes. Probably, I don't know, what, 20 seconds, 30 seconds or something.
Yeah.
Now you're going to have both the video and the audible available all on that at one time, and you're bringing all that together, kind of like putting some mini commercials together then or something.
Absolutely. So, for instance, I have a video that I'll link later in your podcast area that people can look at. I took video and audio that's probably about an hour or so long, and I made a short video about 29 seconds out of it. And it's of a photographer that's getting up to go photograph a city in the morning. He loves to photograph cities at dawn. So one of the things he commonly does is he gets up at the crack of dawn, or before that actually, and makes his coffee and goes out the door with his equipment. So I made a 29-second video that's documentary style that talks about or shows that process of him getting up, putting on his clothes, making his coffee, and heading out the door. So it's more about the style than it is the length. Okay. Now people ask me, they say, well, Wayne, if I'm shooting horizontal, how are you going to publish a vertical video? Well, here's the thing. When you capture footage in a horizontal format, the subject is usually in the middle of the camera, like we are right now. Right. We're in the middle of that horizontal shot. So I can easily cut out a vertical from the horizontal. But if you shoot only in vertical,
No room.
then you can't cut a horizontal from that because I'd be focused in on my nose, right? It'd be too tight.
Yeah,
But
we don't want that. We don't want that, Wayne.
no, we don't want that. My nose is big enough. You don't need to see it that big. So shoot in horizontal. That's my biggest recommendation. But that means you need to do a little editing later on. But you're going to have better quality videos if you do this process. And that's why I created the documentary video lab as a community to help people, to teach people. So I hold a lot of live Zoom events that people can come to and learn. I post videos that I've prepared ahead of time so people can learn from those. And basically what I'm doing is I'm trying to start a new trend. And this trend would be more in the documentary style of video. And one of the reasons that I believe people should do this is the future. The future is going to be all AI. And it really already is becoming that. It's not even the future, it's tomorrow. So if you've ever seen the movie Blade Runner, do you remember that movie? So if you remember the movie Blade Runner, there's all kinds of robots and holograms, and like it's a very futuristic world. Well, we are moving quickly into that world. And what you're going to see all over the internet is avatars, AI avatars.
Yeah.
And, you know, every realtor is going to have an avatar, and every financial guy is going to have an avatar. And you're going to crave seeing a real person talking about a real story on a real video. So if you want to stand out above the AI crowd, then these videos are going to help you do that. That's my prediction anyway.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, the AI is taking over hugely. I mean, it's everywhere now. I mean, I'm learning how to use it, and I just got my first smartphone 5 years ago, so it shows how far behind the times I am, but you got to start to learn to catch up a little bit, or else, things are just going to blow right by you. But
Yeah.
this is an interesting concept, because I work with a company that does trust, right? And they're big in what we call this letter you write to put in the trust, so you can. It's the way to keep your family's traditions and everything in order. But they can add this piece now with that, the video piece, and put a whole thing together that would really blow this up. I'm kind of thinking, we might have to get you guys connected somehow to maybe kind of make a merge, and this might just be the next step in their situation with what they're promoting. This is kind of neat.
Absolutely.
This is interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. I just spoke with a gentleman the other day, and we were talking about how families, just even on their own, should just start recording their older members of the family, like the grandmothers and the grandfathers and the parents, because, everyone's going to die eventually. And if you have that interview with your grandmother, let's say, I mean, I wish I had that. I wish when she was alive, I sat down with her and talked to her and interviewed her, and I had a camera on her, and then I'd have that material. But I don't have that material. That also makes me think about a documentary I just watched. This is very important for any business owner that's just getting started. So Apple was a small startup company at one point, and Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak were in the garage, and they were creating the first computer. Well, they don't have any video of that. So when you watch a documentary on TV about Apple, they use photos, and they show the early photo of Steve working on the computer in the garage, and then they show a picture of the garage. They don't have any video of it. So if you're a startup company, the best thing you can do is start documenting everything. document what's happening in the company right now, even though it's small and maybe just a startup, and maybe it won't even be successful. But if it is, 10, 20 years down the road, you're going to have footage. You're going to have documentary style footage. And the other thing that's great about documentary style footage is it can be dipped into time and time again. So for instance, I have a video that shows Anthony, the photographer, at the Eiffel Tower in Paris. And I cut a short clip, which I'll provide a link to, and it's showing him rushing to get the shots before the tourists come. And he's there really early before the tourists come. Now, the footage, the original footage, didn't really portray that story. That's the story that I told. Okay. Now, I could also use that footage of Paris along with the Venice footage and the London footage, and I could tell another story about Anthony's love of light, which would be a totally different story, but I'm reusing that footage from Paris and from London and from Venice in a different way. So the beauty of doing documentary style footage is you can keep on dipping into it time and time again. So when you're recording that footage, think about you're making an investment in footage that can be reused. If you take your phone out and you hold it up to your face like this, and you say, "Hi, I'm over here at this house today doing a walkthrough," that video is only good for one thing: posting on Instagram or posting on TikTok. So if you want to create reusable content, then start turning your phone like this and documenting and narrating. So let's say you're a roofing guy, like I said before. Take out your phone and start recording what you see happening, and tell people that will be watching the video later, Bob's putting on a piece of plywood right now, right? Or whatever the situation may be.
Gotcha.
Start narrating the video, because I don't have to use the audio from that video. But if I want to, it'd be nice if there's some narration there about what's happening. And later you can watch the videos that I'll link with the podcast, and you can get an idea of what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great. This is interesting. So, and you're helping people do this through the group you've developed, and people can come to you and have you do it for them, right? You can. Is that how it works too?
Absolutely. So basically, I've got 3 tiers. Okay. So the first tier is the DIY tier, the do-it-yourself tier, because I know everyone's got a phone and everyone wants to save money, so they can just record themselves. Now, if you've got a little bit more money than time, we can go with tier 2 option. Tier 2 option would be, you're in, is it Texas, Cory?
No, I'm in California, way up north.
Okay. So let's say you come to me and you're like, "Wayne, I've got more budget than time, and I want you to come out and video me." Well, there's 2 options. We can find a local videographer near you that can work under my direction and capture what I need. Or tier 3 would be, you'd say, "Hey, Wayne, come on out for a week or 2 and hang out with me and document what I do." So I would still be your editor, but the options are for the recording part. You can either do it yourself, have another videographer near you do it, or I can come out and do it myself.
Interesting. So if people were interested in doing this, what's the best way they can get a hold of you?
Well, the easiest way to find me is just go to my name, waynewallace.com. And there's a link tree there currently. Depending on when you go there, it may look different, but currently it's a link tree. And then the second link down is a link to my documentary video lab that I was talking about.
Okay.
And that community is free. You can come join it and start learning about documentary style film or video. I use that word interchangeably, documentary film or documentary video. To me, it's all the same. It's really just a matter of where you're playing it. If
Right.
you're playing it in a theater, then it's technically called a film, right? But if you're playing it on your YouTube channel, it's called a video. So yeah, people can join the documentary video lab for free. And the easiest way to find me is at waynewallace.com.
Awesome. Awesome. So Wayne, give us an example, that we can put a little proof in the pudding here, some business that you've helped or something that your process has actually helped them and they've gained something from it.
Absolutely. So the best example actually comes from the master's program that I was in. So my teacher followed around a photographer, this guy Anthony that I talked about. He followed around Anthony for 2 years, creating footage of Anthony photographing cities at dawn. Now, if you had come to me prior to this and asked me, Wayne, can I create a documentary about you as a photographer? I would have probably said, no, that'd be kind of boring, right? Just from my point of view. But when I saw this footage that my teacher created, Anthony's just a photographer and he doesn't even photograph people, he photographs cities. But during the course of this year-long master's program, I got to play with all the footage, and it's about a photographer. So this same style of footage would work for any business owner. It would work for, like I said, a handyman, someone that works with his hands, carpentry, a restaurant, anything visually interesting. Now, if you're a CPA or an accountant and all you do is sit behind a computer all day using QuickBooks, what you do is probably not that interesting for a documentary.
I was thinking the same thing. I was thinking the exact same thing. I mean, boy, in my world where I sit down and I'm doing the financial stuff at a computer, boy, I could put you to sleep quick, probably.
But here's the other thing, Cory, is you probably do interesting stuff outside of work.
Yeah.
So give me an example. What do you do outside of work?
Well, I work most time, but like last night, I just went to there was a 50th class reunion and I was the bartender there for them, so they had their own personal bartender. So there's stuff like that and Rotary, the other functions guy goes to and stuff in business. Yeah.
Absolutely. So a lot of people like yourself that sit behind your computer all day, you go out and you do community activities and you meet people. So your documentary story or an accountant's documentary story could be more about their lifestyle and what they do. It's not about their actual work, but it's about how they're involved with the community. And that actually is probably even better story than talking about what you do, because it's talking about how you help the community. So with a little bit of creative thinking, anyone can use this style of video for their business.
Gotcha. So as we bring this to a close, what's the best advice you could give somebody that's kind of like looking to get into this industry you're in? What's the best advice you can give them on maybe where to start so they don't make so many pitfalls and stuff like that?
Well, there's one little area that I haven't talked about that I'll touch on real quick. We talked a little bit about AI. And I love technology. I love AI. I use AI in my video editing tools. It helps me greatly with things like transcriptions and removing objects that I don't want in the video anymore. Stuff like that. So as in all my other careers that went from analog to digital, now video editing is going from manual video editing to AI assisted editing, which is great. And the biggest advice I would give to any business owner is constantly be aware of the things that are changing in your industry and how technology is going to affect you, because it's affected every single career that I've been in. And my willingness to adopt to new technology and changes helps me, just like with what I'm doing right now. I want to help people anywhere they live, not just in Vegas. So I'm capitalizing on the use of the fact that everyone's got a great cell phone now and they can capture great footage. They just need a little mentoring and coaching from me. So I would say the biggest thing is embrace change. That's my biggest advice.
Okay, well, there you go. That's going to be hard for some people, but I get it. Yeah, but I mean, maybe coming into this industry, you just know that's part of the game. So, anyways, Wayne, I think this has been great today. You gave a lot of great information. We're going to bring this to a close, but I want to give you one last chance. If you got something on your mind that you want to talk about a little bit, or we're going to bring this to a close. What do you think?
I think I've pretty much covered everything, but yeah, just embrace change and come visit me at waynewallace.com and learn more about, documentary style videos. I think your business will benefit from it greatly.
Well, there you go. Well, Wayne, I want to thank you for coming today and being part of the show. And to all of our listeners out there, if you're looking to document your business and want to learn how to do it, look Wayne up, waynewallace.com. He's right there. He's ready to help you and assist you in any way he can. So I want to thank all the listeners today for coming in, listening. And this is the Lost Coast Podcast, and we're signing off. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Bye.